Hi, I want to welcome you to English 101 Online. This is for section 5160 and 5161 for the winter quarter of 2019. I want to take this time, and this might be a little longer video than usual, but I'm going to take this time to introduce the course, lay out some expectations, give you a brief tour of Canvas for those of you that are new to online learning, and introduce myself, go over the syllabus, sort of all the stuff we would do on day one of a face-to-face class. I'm going to cover in this video. So I really want to encourage you to watch all the way through the syllabus portion at least. And then if you're really familiar with Canvas and you're not going to have any technical issues or concerns and can find your way through all of the expectations, then feel free to stop at the Canvas part of the video. However, if you just want to see how I think about Canvas, go ahead and follow along. So let's get started. Welcome. My name is CJ Dosh. When you address me via email, or if we have a conversation through Skype or some other way when making arrangements for office hours, I prefer being addressed as CJ. It's going to be just easier for all of us. However, I do understand folks might feel the need to be more formal. And if you want to address me more formally than the best way of doing that would be Dr. Dosh. That's the next most appropriate way. But I'm totally cool with CJ, and I will address you accordingly, and however you sign off or sign in to me when you write me a message. So let's get started. This is English 101. I've subtitled this Composing in Genres. The course is Composition 1. So let's see if I can transition my slide here. All right, course philosophy, there we go. So I want to talk really quickly about how I think about composition and what sort of expectations you can have for this. A lot of times folks will come into English 101 at the college level and think, oh, that's going to be about sentences and you're going to learn grammar, and I'm going to be very picky about that. On one hand, I am a little picky about how your writing is going to be, but I'm not going to get obsessed over commas and things like that. I will mark them so that you can look at them and correct your future writing, but you're not going to fail for a few small commas. College writing assumes that you already know how to write a complete sentence, how to put together a paragraph, how to do basic foundational writing. Right? I'm assuming you can do that, so I'm not going to spend time teaching that. If somewhere along the lines you discover there's something you just don't know how to do in the writing, well then come reach out to me and I'll assist you, or I'll give you directions to places where you can find that assistance and do that practice to get yourself up to the level that I'm assuming you're at this point. What that means is that in this course, I'm going to emphasize how do we think about writing, what do we do when we write, and what's the process that we work through in order to get our communication across from one person to the next. The whole point of writing is to be able to share our ideas, thoughts, and expectations with someone else. All right, and so as we go through this course, that's my emphasis: clarity of your writing. How clearly are you articulating the objective of the kind of writing you're doing? Throughout this quarter, we're going to do several kinds of writing that are genre writing. So we're going to pick different genres, and then you're going to work through what those genres do. Right? So one might be a couple letters, some reviews, an academic summary and response, and then a final argument paper. I'll talk about that in a bit, and we'll go over the details of that. But my objective here and my philosophy around composition is that there's no such thing as a math person or English person, so let's put that away. Instead, my philosophy is, look, all of us think about things, have things to say, and we're all capable of getting our communication across to someone else if we understand the tools and the structures that are in place. So for this entire quarter, I'm going to lay out how to begin thinking about writing as a structural thing. What are the parts of the piece of writing that you need to be able to use to get your point across clearly? And so as we work through the quarter, I'm going to give you small assignments that are going to lead up to a larger paper, and each one of those small assignments will be working on a part that you'll learn how to use. There's parts will be building blocks that you can then transfer to future kinds of writing, whether it's at home, in your office, at future college, other classes. The whole objective of college composition is to learn the skills that you can take to other classes and transfer out into the real world, to be functional writers. Okay, so that's my philosophy. My expectation and the style of my teaching is very structured. I do ask that folks do the work in order and that you do all of the daily homework. Now, you don't have to, you can get zeros for it. That's your call as a student. But I design all the homework not to be busy work, but rather all of it has a learning objective. Some skill set I want you to focus on specifically so that you can use it in the future and build on it. So when we get forward in this intro and you start seeing the canvas and you're exploring a bit, it's going to look as if there's a lot of work, because there kind of is if you look at it just at the calendar level. However, a lot of this work is small, focused work that can be done in short bursts. And so I really don't want you to get overwhelmed when you look at it. Instead, I want you to think of it as opportunities. You're also going to see that I've scheduled out all of our weeks in Monday through Thursday or Monday through Friday sort of pattern with work every single day. Now, I understand that you're taking an online class, and it might be that you're busy and you work or you have obligations some evenings. That's great, that's fine, but work ahead then. So if you know that you have something coming up on Tuesday and Wednesday night, then on Sunday and Monday do the work for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and turn it in early. Most of the time, that's going to totally be a sufficient way of doing things, except for the peer review weeks. But we'll get to those when we get to them. In the first few weeks, it's going to be look ahead, take care of what you can, time management. This is an online course. Honestly, I think online courses are a little bit more difficult than face-to-face courses in the sense that we don't get to have the small little conversations that help you understand an assignment more clearly. You don't get to hear other people's questions in the same way that help bring out other questions that you might have but not realize that you have yet. And so there is a certain sort of dynamic that is missing in an online class. So that's why I try to keep it as structured and formal as possible so that I try to cover the bases I can. That said, I totally understand that you and I will think in different ways and read things in different ways. And so if you've got questions, that's what Canvas Inbox is for, and I'm there to help you. This is what we call an instructor-guided online course, which means I'll actively be managing it and checking it every day. That doesn't mean I'll be posting something every day or checking or reading your homework immediately after you submit it. But it does mean that I will be working through things every single day, checking and making sure the course is running, that things are getting submitted. I try to keep up with daily homework throughout the week. Although some weeks I get busy and then I get delayed, I have several classes, so it's a strategic time management for me, just as it is for you. So I'll try to keep you up to date and post updates and announcements about the class so that you can have clear expectations around when you should see things or if I'm making changes. Things like that. Okay, so that's my philosophy. I believe that y'all can do this. I believe that the structure I have is going to get you there. I also emphasize two important parts of writing, and that's process. And I'll give you a big lecture on that later this week. And genre. So process and genre are the two things we're going to focus on this quarter, and the small little pieces that make it work. That's my philosophy. I think y'all can do it. I don't try to be tricky. I try to give you the help I can. And that's where we go from there. All right, let's move on. Syllabus. It's available as a digital copy in Canvas on the home page and on the syllabus page. I'm going to move off of this PowerPoint slide to the syllabus itself in just a second. I'm not going to go over every single thing in the syllabus. Instead, what I'm going to say here is you're watching this, which means you can hear me say, read all the policies. The things that we do in this class are going to be governed by the policies in the syllabus, and so it's important that you understand them. I will highlight the most important ones, but when something comes up, if it's in the syllabus, that'll be our default go-to in terms of where to start our conversations about expectations. If you want to print it out, you certainly can do that, but it's not necessary because you'll always be able to find it in Canvas. All right, so let me take a moment here, and I'm going to get out of this and open up the syllabus. If you look at the Canvas home page, this is what you're going to see. You've already seen this home page if you're watching this video, and you'll see the link that says read the course syllabus. I'm guessing that many of you have already opened that up before you got to this video, so I'm going to go through it really quickly. Page number 1 has all the important information you'll need that's in Canvas as well, but it's on the SPSCC website. But I also want it on one page that you can just print out and have available for you. I'm a paper person. I like having paper, even though I do everything digitally. The really important stuff I print out and I usually carry with me. So here you'll see my name, my office. If you want to come visit me, I'm on campus every day. Pretty much, I would say my hours on campus are guaranteed to be somewhere between 8 and 4:30 every day. Fridays are a little bit more slippery, but those are typically my hours. You can get a hold of me via email, but the best way is going to be through Canvas, since I'm in Canvas all the time and I check my Canvas messages regularly. My office hours, I'm going to have formal ones where you can just walk in. These are going to be Monday through Thursday, 11:15 to 12:30. I really do encourage you, if you're on campus or taking an on-campus course, to stop by and say hi, get to know me more personally. Secondly, if you're interested in just visiting or brainstorming about paper or getting feedback, things like that, let's set up an appointment. If you're on campus or can come into campus, I'm great with working that out. If you can't, we can find a technological solution such as a Skype or a Zoom video conference. I prefer those over a phone call. They're more personal. In emergency, I'll work out a phone call, but calling me in my office has to be done by appointment, since I can't guarantee I'll be there. I know that's a lot of information, but I just want you to know I'm available, and we can work that out, but oftentimes we have to kind of arrange it so that the technology works in our favor. All right, you're going to see here that the composing genres is our outline. Here's what the course is about. Basically, for me, as I said, it's transferable skills, writing genres, and process. These are the formal outcomes that I can guarantee you're going to meet by the end of this quarter. These are the ones that are official for the college, what the college expects you to be able to do at the end of English 101. If you're moving on to English 102 and doing your AA for transfer, you have to do a C or better in this class. A C minus isn't passing in English 101. It's passing if you're doing running start and you're finishing high school. It's also passing if you're a professional technical, but it won't get you into 102, and it oftentimes won't count as passing for a general ed if you're going on to a transfer. So my suggestion would be is make sure to monitor your grades and work towards that C, which is a 73.5%. You have to get that or better to get a C in this class. Required textbooks. There are no required textbooks. I think composition textbooks are overly expensive, and in a quarter online, we're not going to go through enough of the textbook to justify the cost. So I've PDF'd some random chapters here and there that I think are important, and everything else I will give you via lecture and PowerPoint materials. So instead of reading about things, I'm going to ask that you listen and pay attention to the lectures, but also the handout materials that break up what would be like a chapter reading, but in smaller pieces. So my handouts, my lectures, and my PowerPoints are designed to give you the tidbits out of every important chapter space instead of having you read an expensive textbook. Now, I know some folks like the textbook for reference, but there's also an online writing handbook that's free, and I have included that in a link in Canvas under the Week 0 module that you can use. It's the equivalent of the $40 or $45 writing handbook. If you have one of your own, go ahead and use it. That's great. Otherwise, I've provided all the other materials you need. I am going to ask that as you're reading the articles that we write about and that we read for discussion, that you print those out and practice annotating. I don't think you need to do that for the lecture materials, the assignments, or even the textbook readings I give you. But for other things, I would like to have you practice annotating. And so I'll give you a lecture on that this week, but it's important that you can print things out and have access that way. I'm going to ask that you submit everything in this class in either Word format or PDF format. Most of the assignments will accept only Word format, and some will accept PDF. The reason I ask you to do that is because Word is kind of the standard word processing format across the United States and business. So I want you to be familiar with it. It's also because it opens up easily in Canvas, and I can grade and provide feedback on it in ways that I can't through Pages or Google Docs and things like that. Because this is a writing class, I do try to give you feedback on your writing, and as such I need to have a format that I can do that easily, and submitting in a Word format is the way to do that. If you're not familiar with Word, it's very important that you get familiar with Word. I'll give you plenty of assignments that allow you some practice. If you don't have a copy of it on your own computer, know that you can get a copy of it free from SPSCC. You just need to download it. There's instructions on that on the IT homepage of the SPSCC website. And if you're having problems figuring out how to download and get your own free copy of Microsoft Office, send me a message and I'll send you the link. Okay, so English 101, the breakdown for this in terms of grade homework looks like something like this, or grade expectations like this. Homework is 15%. We do a lot of little point homework in order to work through things. Here's what I'm going to tell you. Missing one or two of those, if you've got a busy week or things just aren't flowing for you, isn't going to kill your grade. Right? Don't stress over one or two little things. That said, folks who blow off homework or blow off too much of it, this is the difference between that C minus and that C, that B plus and the A minus, the B minus and the C plus can be homework. It's a buffer. I don't make it hard because I grade on completion and attempting to do the homework on time and staying on time. But if you blow it off, it can hurt you. So I've designed it to be useful, but also a grade buffer. All right, I'm not making you do work just for the heck of it, because I have to grade it. So it's work for me too. Reflection writing. There's going to be 4 of these, maybe more, but generally 4. They are graded. It's expected that you treat them like a writing assignment, but they're usually focused on concepts and your own reflections on your writing. These are easy to get good score on if you take them seriously and do them. So they're pretty self-explanatory. When we get to it, you'll see it. Our very first writing assignment in week 1, or actually it's Monday for week 2, is going to be the first reflection, thinking about your writing process. Pretty straightforward. We'll get to it as we go forward. This is a composing genres class, so our first 2 genres are going to be called common genres. We're going to write 2 letters, an informal letter and a personal business, or informal personal letter, and then a business letter or a cover letter for a job application. When we get to those assignments, you'll get the specifics. We're also going to write a product review, kind of like you would do on Amazon.com. And those will be about 10% of the grade because they're short, low stakes, and relatively easy. Folks do pretty well on these if they follow the rules of the assignments. Because they're not long and they tend to come out of your own life, and people write better when they come out of their own life. As we move into the academic genres, however, you're going to begin practicing what we do in the academic world, which are things like summary, response, using quotes, using sources, making sure you have credible information, good organization, putting together claims, all these formal parts of writing. We're going to practice all of those things. We're going to have 3 academic genre pieces. One is the media review. This is sort of maybe a hybrid. It's part common genre, part academic. Then we're going to do a critical response, and finally your large argument essay. That final essay will meet the expectations for college composition 1, which is to write a 5 to 7 page paper that uses multiple sources. So that'll be the big assignment. But by the time I get to it, you're going to know all of it. And for those of you who haven't written 4, 5, 6 pages in a while, by the time we get there, it's going to be cake. You're going to have lots of practice. My theory on this is I'm going to make you write every week. You're going to be writing all the time, so that you get used to it. Nothing's harder than like doing little bits of work for a couple weeks and then having to write everything in one day. I don't believe in that, and I think if folks stretch out their writing over time and put little bit, you meet your expectations without even realizing it. So you're going to practice that. In the first couple weeks, it's going to be sort of an immersion, right? Get lots of work every day so that you get in the flow. And once you're in the flow, it's going to be golden. All right. So that's how the grading works out. We'll talk about the specifics of that for each specific assignment when we get to it. Homework and essay formats. This is online, so obviously everything's typed. I already said it's going to be in Word. It'll be turned in Canvas. We're going to use MLA format. This week you'll have a lecture on how to put your documents into MLA format. Please watch it and put all of the homework that you can into that format. So even the little homework that has to be turned in Word, I still want your name block. Even if I can see your name in Canvas, it's good to get in the practice of this. Late work policy, I'm going to talk about this kind of quickly, but it's pretty straightforward. I do allow late work. For homework, what that means is that after it's late, I will slowly deduct points from it until the unit that we're working on is gone, and at that point, late homework is worth 0. So it's 50% starting the next day, and then if it's a week late, maybe it's 75% deduction. But that's because homework is small points and I need you to keep moving forward. But I want you to turn that in if it's helpful. So turn it in and I'll give you points for it, all the way up to the essay. So if we're doing all kinds of homework for the letters, you can turn in the homework for the letter stuff all the way to the last submission date for the letters. But once the letter paper is submitted and that date's passed, then the homework for it is no longer valid. So when we get to the media review, all the homework for the media review can get turned in late up to the day that the media review is due, because it doesn't make sense to do the homework for paper you've already turned in. I can't accept points for that, because it's at that point it's just busy work, and I'm not going to give you points for busy work. That's just how it works. So that's the late policy for homework. For the actual papers, those have a very strict deadline, and that's 48 hours after the due date. You have a little grace period there. In that 48 hours, I will grade it normally, but then I will take 15% off the grade you receive. Now that's kind of heavy duty, and that's a deduction that can hurt you. That's a grade and a half. But if you're freaking out and you're going to turn in an F paper at the deadline and you got time to figure it out, you can turn in an A paper with a deduction because you finally got things flowing, that's way better than an F. If you turn in a B paper and you get a C because of the deduction, that's way better than an F. So that 48 hours there is because sometimes we write to the last minute and we freak out and we don't have anything done. I'm going to give you that grace period. Now, if there are life circumstances that get in your way and smack you out of your flow, and they're legitimate, you need to talk to me as soon as possible and in advance of the deadline. I'm pretty generous with accepting sort of life circumstances and making some agreed upon arrangements about new deadlines if I know in advance, but I cannot be generous after the fact. I don't have a magic ball, so to speak, so I don't know what's true. You need to manage your life and this with the course in a reasonable way. Now, hey, we're all human. I understand things happen, but I also, in an online course, we need to have good communication so that we know what's going on, right? That's all I ask. Good communication beforehand. All right, I'll let you read the feedback and great explanations. That's pretty straightforward. Next, it's going to say about Canvas. We use Canvas. That's pretty obvious. You're already in it. Some basic things about how I understand Canvas, but I'll talk about that when I get to Canvas, so we'll skip that part too. We'll talk about the email and inboxing really quickly. Some folks take this class and never contact me and never have to deal with me in a personal way, and that's their choice. But if you do have a question or you want to let me know something, then send me an inbox through Canvas. In the Canvas, there's your little inbox feature. Send me a message. I'll send it back to you, and we'll have some good communication. I typically can get back to folks within 24 hours. Honestly, it's usually the same day within a couple hours, depending on when it's submitted. If it's during my work day, it'll happen that day. If it happens in the evening, which is going to be very common for an online class, I might not get to it till the next morning. In part because I can't work on campus and then work at home all night, and then I work 24 hours a day. I already work a lot as it is, and I have to kind of set some boundaries for myself just for sanity. And that's usually how weekends are too. I'll do a lot of grading on the weekends, and then if I see messages that are important or that I can handle quickly, I'll do it, but I can't guarantee them. But I'll be honest, oftentimes I'll try to get back to you as soon as I can. All right, but it has to come through the inbox so that I can keep track of it. That way I won't lose it. Next, in terms of how you write to me, what I do ask is, this is a composition class. This is about an English class, that you do write with complete sentences. I don't want you to treat it like text messaging. So for the inbox, I would prefer you, when you first send me a message, you say something like, "Hi CJ, I've got a question, blah, blah, blah. Here it is. Thanks," and then your name, right? And then I'll respond in kind. "Hi, your name, here's what's going on, here's my answer, I hope that helps. See you later, CJ. Now, if we're continuing that conversation, we don't have to keep greeting and closing with each other, but I want you to start every news thread with me that way. It's good practice, and frankly, if we move into the real world, we need to be able to communicate with our supervisors and our colleagues in a professional manner that doesn't expect that we're just talking casually. So let's try and practice that. Doesn't take much more than a few seconds to add a hi in someone's name. All right. Um, when we get into the class participation, we don't have a grade of participation, but because this is an active online course, there are going to be discussions with your peers and peer reviews, and these are time sensitive, and your grade will be affected by not doing those on time. Peer reviews and discussions are the only homework assignments where you won't get credit for turning them in late, because those things impact your peers, and if your peers aren't getting it on time, then it hurts their ability to function well in the courses too. So those two things really have to work on. The more folks participate in these group discussions and in peer reviews fully and on time, the better it is for everybody. You're going to find that you're going to get much better feedback. Good online citizenship. This is straightforward. I'm just going to say it. I've never had to deal with people to date who have lost their cool or said inappropriate things, but I know it happens, and sometimes folks online feel sort of brave. I'm not gonna tolerate any personal attacks, any sort of discriminatory or oppressive language, or anything that is inappropriate. If you create a hostile learning environment in our Canvas course for your peers, I will give you a quick warning, but it's my discretion to remove you from this course if you create a hostile learning environment for folks, and I will exercise that. Um, Now, like I said, most folks don't have a problem with this and it works out great. But you have to understand that just like on a face-to-face course, you are subject to good citizenship behavior rules, all right? Like I said, most folks are great. I haven't had an experience where we've had problems, and I try to have topics and objectives that are both interesting, but also allow for some sane conversations, all right? I don't give incompletes unless there's extenuating circumstances, which means you have to be almost done with the course and doing well before I'd even consider it. In terms of academic policies, you're going to see a whole bunch of college policies posted in Canvas under the college-wide policies link, and then also the student handbook is a link here in the syllabus. Most importantly for this class is going to be things around accommodations and plagiarism. So if you have an accommodation, please let me know as soon as possible. So for instance, if you're taking an online course and you don't hear well or see well, and you have an accommodation for these issues, then let me know so that I can make sure that my documents and my videos are meeting your needs. I try to make sure all the videos are closed captioned, and I try to make sure that most of my documents are accessible for the most part. Now there are some things that aren't, and I can work with that. I'm slowly making all of my materials accessible, but some of them are not. And so if we're hitting it, make sure to let me know so I can try and get caught up on the ones that need work. It's an ongoing process, and I'm constantly updating. Anything I create new should always be should work fine. But if you've got a specific accommodation, like I said, let me know so I can make sure that I'm not presenting or publishing issues in Canvas that are not helping you learn. All right. In terms of plagiarism, the short sort of answer to this is don't do it. But this is English 101, and part of my job in English 101 is to help you learn how to not inadvertently or accidentally plagiarize something. So we're going to talk about how to cite sources and use sources well. But I also want to remind you that, look, this is an online course. It's going to be tempting to go out and do internet looking and researching and find things like that. And in one part, I understand that we all do it. It's called research if you cite it and you show yourself to be doing it responsibly. It's called plagiarism if you copy and paste stuff from the internet and or from other students and you pass it off as your own. I don't take kindly to that. If I find it, you'll automatically fail that assignment, and depending on how it works, you'll fail the class if you're plagiarizing things, straight up copy and pasting specifically. That said, if you're making some mistakes that fall into plagiarism and you're not doing it on purpose, and I can see that, we call that academic negligence, and I'm going to give you some heads up on how to fix that, and we'll move forward. But if you don't fix things that I've repeatedly pointed out to you, that becomes a problem. So that's going to be part of just looking at feedback and making sure you look at my feedback. All right. We'll talk about that more when we get into using sources and evaluation. Academic resources, there's a lot of things on campus and online that you can use. The Writing Center on campus is great. You can go to them at any time at any stage of your writing process. We also have access to e-tutoring, which will do like online Writing Center type stuff. And so you can access that through the Writing Center's web page on the SPSCC website. It has about a 48-hour turnaround, however, so you want to make sure that you're scheduling it in advance and submitting drafts and getting feedback. When we get to the bigger papers, there's going to be plenty of time for you to do that, and so I'm not really too worried. There's a disclaimer here that use of student writing. Occasionally I'll put together professional materials and I'll want to use student samples. If I do that, I always take off people's identifying name and markers, and I'll then use just excerpts and bits and pieces. Sometimes I'll save a paper because it's really good, and I'll let students know that I'm saving it to use as a sample in the future. But either way, I'll make sure that you're not connected with it. This is just a kind of a disclaimer. Right now, I've got lots of materials, so it's likely this quarter I won't be collecting things, but you never know. Because we're in Canvas, everything is going to be in Canvas, so go to Canvas for all your details. But there are some key reminders here for what's going on in 2019 winter quarter. So the first day of class is the 2nd. Officially, I'll post this probably a little earlier than that, but you'll be able to do that. I'm expecting that you'll start the course that day. There are several Monday holidays. They won't affect us in the online course. I'll try to not put assignments on those days so that you can have the normal holiday break. But as with any other course, there's going to be work you're going to be doing and expected to have turned in around those holidays. I do like to let you know what the last day to withdraw from the class is. For this quarter, February 26th is the last day that you can withdraw from the class and get a W on your transcript, which means it won't affect your grade point average, but it will show that you've been in the course, and it will be on your transcript. And then the last day of official classes is March 15th, and then finals week is the week after that. Your final paper and the final reflection will be due during the first half of finals week. So please keep in mind there's a due date there, and you'll see that in Canvas. On to the last page of this syllabus, you'll see our basic units. I've already run through these a little bit. These are the skills and the issues that we'll learn throughout the quarter. And so I just want to make sure you have a structure of how the units work out. Some units will take 3-4 weeks, some will be 1 or 2 weeks. That's just how it kind of flows. But for each one of these units, you'll have 1 or 2 writing assignments. And over the course of the quarter, you'll probably write about 18 to 20 pages of graded work. Some of it in 1-page increments, some in 2-page increments, so forth. It's gonna happen fast. We'll be at the end of the quarter in no time, and you'll have be surprised how quickly and well you'll have accomplished some of the writing. So if you have any questions about this, go ahead and read through it, but all of this will be reflected in the Canvas structure. So I'm going to close this right now. While I'm thinking about it, I talk really fast, so my videos will be closed captioned to help a little bit there. You can watch them over and over again. If for some reason you don't catch something, send me a message. I'm going to keep saying that. I'm always going to say that. Ask me questions. Come see me. All right, let's do a quick tour of Canvas. If you're familiar with Canvas and you don't need any help with Canvas at all because you've been doing it before, this is your 7th online class or whatever, go ahead and get started and see where you're at and follow along with the modules and the calendar, and we're good to go. If you're new to Canvas, I'm going to do a quick tutorial tour through Canvas just to show you how I think about Canvas and how I'm using it so that you can follow along with the way that I'm thinking about it. So when we get to the home page here, I'm going to use this first homepage just like this for a couple weeks, and what I'll do is I'll add things to the top of it. I'll just add some notes. So maybe on day 3 or 4 I'll do a check-in and I'll give you some reminders, or maybe I'll post a link to an updated assignment or something if I do that. I'll do that for a few weeks, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the home page into the modules page, since we'll be following the modules all the way through. What'll happen is then you can see this page under the pages link, and it'll be listed as home page. You can also click on the syllabus page and you'll see something similar. So this home page, if you look at it today, what I'm saying is, hey, day 1, let's get started, read my sort of introduction, look at the syllabus, which we already did, watch this video, which you're doing right now, get familiar with the calendar and the module pages, and then do the first 2 assignments. And then that's it. All right, so if you hit the syllabus button, what's going to happen is you're going to see the syllabus link here to open up the syllabus and main details. But in Canvas, what it's also going to do is give you a stream of all of the assignments as they're laid out for the quarter. So here's all the work for the quarter. It looks kind of daunting when it's a big giant list like this, but it's manageable. And it'll break it out by day. It'll show you what's showing up that day, and you can access your assignments this way. This actually is a pretty decent way to look at what's due each day. So if you look at January 2nd, here's the things I'm asking you to do today. We're doing course introduction, the questionnaire, the introductions, and then a lecture video to watch, plus this video. Now, you can watch the lecture video the next day or whatever as well. The lectures aren't graded. However, there are quizzes that go with some of the lectures that simply confirm that you've watched it. That way you say, look, hey, CJ, I can confirm that I watched the video, and that way I know that I can assume you know that information. If you don't do that, it'll cost you a few free points. But the bigger issue here is that a lot of times what you're going to be writing about in future assignments I talk about in these lecture videos. Now they're not super exciting to watch, but there's valuable information, and it's a substitute for a textbook and our face-to-face time. I think it actually helps. It makes the class more personal as well, because you see me and hear my voice. All right, so this is one way to access what's going on. If I go back to the home page, another way to see it is going to be the to-do list. Yours is going to be a to-do list or coming up list. You certainly can work with that, but it's not a good way to actually look at the coursework for the week ahead, because it's better to get a good sense of it. Let me move to the modules. Modules and the calendar are the 2 places I want you to really be focusing. So if we look at the modules, what this means is that basically I've broken out our course by sort of week clusters. So I've done week 0, which is going to be the reference week. You can open that up on yours, and this is going to be a bunch of handouts and things that are reference handouts. So here's a link to the online handbook. So you click on that, it's going to open it up. And here we've got all kinds of great online handbook stuff. There's also a video on how to do MLA document formatting. It's a link here so that you have it all the time. It'll also be an assignment that a lecture I'm going to have you look at this week. There's a website here for doing some grammar practice. If you are feeling kind of rough on stuff, go do some grammar practices on sentence fragments or commas and just sort of get some sort of refresher. And then there's a handout on how to do academic titles and one on sentence templates. Now we'll go over some of these things in a later date, but I want to have them available to you at all times, because sometimes you just want to look through things and that gives you some ideas. How the modules are organized is I have them organized chronologically. So here we have week 1 and 2 with the topic, and then you'll see in order all of the things I ask you to do. So here we have an assignment, a discussion board, an assignment, and then occasionally there'll be pages with information to help you fill in things. This looks like a lot of stuff, but some of it is really short, some of it's informational only, but this is the sequence that I want you to work through things. So if you look at the modules, they're organized sequentially. I want you to work through things in that order because it's the logic and the way that I've structured things. If you move out of order in it, sometimes you'll then get to an assignment that you haven't actually, that some of the vocabulary or the expectations aren't set up yet. Now, again, I haven't had a lot of experience of people doing things out of order, but it needs to be said so that you know how I'm thinking. So as you look through it, you're going to be able to see the first 4 weeks are turned on, and you're going to see all those. Now, on mine, I can see all the things that aren't turned on yet. But you will only be able to see the first 4 weeks. That's actually a pretty big chunk of time. It's almost half the quarter. But what I would like to have you do is maybe don't work more than a week ahead. So if it's today is Wednesday, go ahead and look through what the week's work is and get started on this week, maybe the beginning of next week. But don't work too much further than that because it's nice to be able to get some grading feedback, and I might change things from time to time. Generally, that means cutting things because our time is getting short, and so you don't want to have to do an assignment a week out that I decide not to have you do. Now, that said, it won't hurt you any, but for your own sort of waste of time and time management, I would say work 3-4 days ahead if you need to time manage that way. That's fine, but you don't have to. Some folks like to do everything one day it's due. That's fine. That's why I spread it out so that it forces you to be in sequence. I know I'm talking a lot, but I also want you to understand how I see things and how I structure the way I'm thinking of the course. It's very organized in order of how we want to work through the topics. Now, organized is relative. You might read my assignment sheets and think differently than I do, but that's okay. All right, so that's the modules. This will become our home page at some point in the next few weeks, but for now, it's the home page. The only other things you really need to worry about here are your grades, and we'll talk about that later. Grades, this is a weighted grade course, which means early on in the quarter, your grade in your total grade isn't going to be accurate because Canvas is going to think that the few small homework assignments we have are the only things that your grade is based on. So really, it's most important that you pay attention to the category grades, and those will be most efficient in terms of monitoring your progress. Later on, I'll give updates about that. It's also through the grades where you'll be able to see the specific written feedback I give you about larger assignments. Okay. When we move down here, the next one I want you to pay attention to is the calendar, and that's over here on the far side. So if I click on the calendar, I'm going to open a new tab. And it's going to get really crazy busy looking here. So I'm going to close off one of these. I've already turned off a couple things, but I'm going to turn off one of the sections because it's duplicated for me. Sorry if it's noisy. My computer fan keeps kicking on and off. Okay, so here's the homework by calendar. So if you look at the calendar, you're going to see that all of the homework for Wednesday is listed here, and then Thursday and Friday, and you'll see the different kinds. Again, they're somewhat sequential. It doesn't matter sort of what order you do things in from day to day usually, but it's usually helpful to watch the lecture before you do the homework. Right? Okay, so this is the calendar. I actually go back and forth. When I put together our schedule, I use the calendar and the modules, so you'll see that they're aligned up and they should be in sync. Sometimes the module, some things might be a little bit out of order if I change in the calendar. I try to update that if I make changes. Either way, I would say these are the best two places. When you're looking at the calendar, however, if you want to click on something, it's not going to open up the assignment. It's going to give you a quick preview. To actually go to this first assignment, you need to click on the assignment up here. If I click on this, I'm going to open a new tab. It's going to take me to the introduction questionnaire. So this is one of the first assignments you need to do. Now, because I'm in teacher mode, there's no submit assignment button here, but you should be able to see one. You can also get to this by going to the module and clicking on introduction questionnaire. Okay, let me really quickly just change I'm going to change it so you can see what I see, or I can see what you see. All right, so if you go in, and this is what you're going to see, if you go into the modules page and you click on the assignment for today or for Tuesday, depending when you watch this, and you go to introduction questionnaire, you're going to see a button that says Submit Assignment. For this questionnaire, you can either do a Word document or a text box. So I click on the Submit Assignment button. It's going to open up a space for me to answer the questions. So here is my options. I can do text entry. If I click on that, I can just type in my answer to the questions here and then hit Submit Assignment. Or I can go to File Upload and I can choose a file from my computer and add it and submit that file. So if I'm working in Word, I can work in Word. I'll save my Word document in a folder that I call English 101, and then I will open that file from here. If you're new to computer use or working, I really recommend you create a folder on your computer called English 101, and just save all of our work and all the documents that I give you to that same folder so you can always find them. I know I see folks all the time who just save their stuff willy-nilly to any documents folder or to the desktop, and if that works for you, great. But the honest truth is, if you got a single place where all the work for this one class is, that's going to be way organized. That's what I do. I in fact create folders for every assignment, so I know that there's a folder for all the documents that are for my letter assignments and all the documents for my argument essay. I like to create organized spaces because I get flustered when my documents are all a mess. Anyway, so that's where you go. You can submit your assignment here, and then it'll be all done. I can go back then to the modules page, and I'm going to leave because I haven't saved my assignment, but you will. With the discussion board for your visual introductions, you'll see mine here. To add yours, just click on the reply here and type yours in. You'll click on this embed button to embed your image, and that's the way it's gonna roll. All right, so those are the first two assignments. It's pretty straightforward. Introduce yourself, do a quick questionnaire, watch a video, and annotations. Now, as you work through Canvas, this first week I'm gonna be asking you to do things that seem like a little bit of work here and there, and that's the whole point. I want you to do a text box, I want you to submit a Word document, I want you to add a picture, I want you to do a post in a discussion board. These are all skills that I want to make sure that you feel comfortable with after week 1, so that as we move through the rest of the quarter, you know how to do all the things I'm going to expect of you throughout the quarter. All right, so this week I'm going to be very gracious when it comes to technical difficulties and problems and late work. I'm going to be really flexible. Like I said, let me know you're having problems. I'll help you out. This first week is about figuring out those problems and getting the technological stuff figured out, so that's in week 3, 4, 5, or week 10. I'm in week 10. I'm not gonna give you any grace if you can't do a discussion board post or you can't submit a Word document, because by that point you should be able to do that. Now, if the internet goes down or the computer starts on fire, yeah, that's understandable. But the technological little things like how to use Word and how to submit it, those need to get worked out in the first week. How to do discussion boards need to get worked out in the first week. All right, they're pretty straightforward. If you've used websites before, great. If you've used Canvas before, you're old hat. I'm not worried about you. But if you have questions, let me know. It is an online class, and because of that, we have to use online technology. Okay, so let me know how that works, and we'll make it happen. Okay, we're going to go back here to the home page. I think that's about it for Canvas Flow. That's what we need to do to make it work. It's a lot of information in this first video. I'm going to sign off here in just about a second, but I do encourage you to sort of explore around in Canvas. You can't really mess anything up because I've turned off things that we're not going to use, and everything's sort of accessible. If you click on the inbox here, this is how you're going to send me a message. Well, I can't do it because I'm in a special view, so but you'll see it. With that, why don't we just call it good, and welcome. I'm looking forward to reading what you write this quarter. I'm looking forward to having some great discussions on some interesting things. My theme for this year and the first half of things in the quarter is about community and just connecting with folks and our experience with that. And then in the last half, middle stuff, we talk about sort of the impact of smartphones on generations. And then in the last half, we're going to talk about social media, our engagement with technology, and privacy. Now, I've got some older articles that I like this topic, and I have some older articles that work, but I'm going to be looking for some fresh ones that are more current. So we may be changing out some of the readings at the end of the quarter, but you won't have to see that until it'll be done before we even get to it. All right. So with that, best of luck. Send me a message. I hope all is well, and Happy New Year. And send me a message if you need anything. All right. Check you later.